Another major U.S. tech giant announces plans to lay off thousands of employees. And another American city falls into the hands of a newly elected Marxist mayor. No, we're not talking about New York City. Verizon is preparing to cut around 15,000 jobs in the biggest round of layoffs in its history. America's largest wireless carrier is battling shrinking customer numbers and rising competition across the wireless and home internet markets. Cuts are set to roll out within the next week and will come mostly through direct layoffs. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, who first reported the news. The company, which has about 100,000 employees, they also plan to spin roughly 200 of its retail stores into franchises, shifting those workers off Verizon's payroll. Verizon is the largest U.S. telecom provider by subscribers and has been losing lucrative postpaid phone customers for 3 straight quarters, we're told, as rivals like T-Mobile and AT&T step up aggressive promotions. Well, now it is time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. The Daily Caller News Foundation reports that Democratic Seattle Mayor-elect Katie Wilson declared that she will not allow private grocery stores to close. That's in a resurfaced video from September. Wilson said during her run for mayor that corporate grocery store chains should not be allowed to only sell food to those who can afford it, and expressed support for a public option, meaning that government-run grocery stores would be established. Her proposal emerged at a time when Democratic New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani had promised to establish government-run grocery stores in his city. Wilson stated in a campaign stump speech in September that, quote, access to affordable, healthy food is a basic right. We cannot allow giant grocery chains to stomp all over our communities, close stores that will leave behind food deserts. Together, we can build a Seattle where fresh food is for everyone, not just for those who can afford it. Food deserts are not natural. Corporations create them when they abandon our communities, end quote. Watch this.
Access to affordable, healthy food is a basic right. We cannot allow giant grocery chains to stomp all over our communities, close stores at will, and leave behind food deserts. Together, we can build a Seattle where fresh food is for everyone, not just for those who can afford it. Food deserts are not natural. Corporations create them when they abandon our communities. As mayor, I'm excited to step up and with UFCW explore public option grocery stores to fill those gaps. We will also work to ban surge and surveillance pricing. An algorithm should not set the price of your grocery bill. Families deserve stability, not digital discrimination. We will also ensure that companies offer fair discounts to customers. Companies should not be locking discounts behind smartphones, making them inaccessible to elderly and low-income shoppers. And as we build new housing throughout our city, we will lay the foundations for food security with grocery-oriented development zones, or GODs, if you will. We will pair full-service grocery stores with workforce housing, dedicating some of those units for those who rely on SNAP and WIC. Finally, we will stand with grocery workers. When big corporations lay off hundreds of people overnight, the whole community suffers. We need to set the standard here in Seattle. Corporations must give 90 days notice for mass layoffs and fair severance pay for laid off workers. Seattle families deserve fresh, affordable food, and workers deserve dignity and stability.
Wilson had promised to appoint members to her cabinet who are Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, Latino, LGBTQ, and Asian, all in the name, of course, of so-called equity. That's according to her website. She's also promised to protect Seattle's status as a sanctuary city and to defy President Trump's immigration enforcement. So we have another city falling to Marxism, both socially and economically. It's pretty well gone. And these social experiments with food, well, they will only lead to less food, not more, less food being available to the poor. Because here's a newsflash. Governments in America don't have the power to force businesses to stay open in areas that they deem as, well, undesirable. That's called communism if you force them to stay open. and it's not going to fly in America. It's been tried countless times. And everywhere it has been tried, it's failed. And unfortunately, the misery that's been created by communist policies, well, they're felt heavy on the poor. Or they share the biggest burden of loss, of, well, I'd say persecution. And isn't it interesting that this woman is all concerned about food deserts, so-called, because there's not grocery stores in those areas, or that they're going to close. Well, they're closing because of crime. They're closing, I believe, because of politicians, police chiefs, city councils that allow crime to grow. They reward the criminals, no cash bail, etc. And then when the crime becomes unbearable, that a small grocery store owner or even a chain cannot turn a profit, there's no motivation to stay. So these socialist Marxists are blaming the wrong people. You see, there's a problem when you have too much government, and there's a problem when you have too little government. Too little government is when you allow the criminals to run the streets and you don't punish them, you don't arrest them, you don't prosecute them. That's too little government. Too much government is when you think you can go in and tell private companies that they can't close and leave an area where they're losing money due to the problem created by the government. So again, God ordained the concept of government. What it is, according to Romans 13, to reward the righteous, punish the wicked, make a stable and just society. The problem is the people running the government today are the wicked. And we, the righteous, are the ones suffering. Do you know about glutathione? You can't live without it. It's a naturally occurring ingredient in your body. But guess what? It starts to decrease around the age of 20. You need glutathione. There are over 165,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. It detoxes your cells. And we know there are toxins everywhere. In fact, studies have shown glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Check it out at swishforlife.com. You just put a small 2 caps in your mouth, swish it for about 3 minutes. Then you can swallow it or spit it out. Studies show that this is in your bloodstream within 90 seconds. It's better than an IV. That'll cost you about $250, and it's broken down. But when you swish with it, it is in your body in 90 seconds in its totality. Glutathione, you need it to live. Swishforlife.com. Swishforlife.com. There is a concerning trend growing in the housing market. A possible housing market crash, foreclosures. Of course, that's when a bank or a lender takes back a home after missed mortgage payments. And they are once again on the rise in the U.S. New data from ATOM, that's an acronym for a group, well, it shows more homeowners are indeed falling behind on their mortgages. And that's amid job losses and soaring living costs. In October alone, there were 36,766 foreclosure filings. That's the first step in the process when a lender warns the homeowner and borrower that they are in default. That's up 3% from September and 19% from a year ago. October was the 8th straight month of year-over-year increase. So noted ATTOM CEO Rob Barber. The rise is stirring uncomfortable memories, of course, of 2008, when a wave of foreclosures triggered the worst housing crash in modern U.S. history. Back then, millions of Americans had adjustable rate subprime mortgages that borrowers could not even afford to pay. And the fallout, well, it wiped out trillions in household wealth and pushed major banks to the brink, tipping the global economy into recession. Of course, the banks were bailed out, at least the largest ones were, but individual homeowners, they faced financial ruin. Today's homeowners, they have safer loans, but the experts are warning that the high cost of borrowing money, the soaring insurance premiums, and the dwindling savings of the average American could again push struggling families into default.